As you guys know, Drake just got embarrassed by UMG in court. His case that was meant to expose UMG was dismissed by a judge on the basis that Not Like Us was an opinionated track, which is kind of crazy because legally losing a rap battle is wild as fuck. But with that being said, academics talked about on stream that Iceman is going to be Drake's last album to fulfill his contract with UMG. And that leads people to ask the question, is Drake going to re-sign to UMG? Is he going to sign somewhere else? Or is he going to go the independent route? With this lawsuit not going the way that Drake obviously intended it to, brings a question to the table, and honestly, it's one that I really want to dive into today. So we're going to take a look at the pros of Drake re-signing to UMG, the cons of Drake re-signing to UMG, what it might look like if he goes to another label, and what it might look like if he goes independent. So we're going to dive right into it. My name's Ron. I make weekly videos on hip-hop. If you are new, definitely make sure to like the video. And if you enjoy the video by the end, make sure to subscribe. It helps me out a ton, and I'd really appreciate it. So with that being said, let's dive right in. As y'all know, a few years back, Drake got a new deal with UMG. He re-upped. People were saying that he got around 400 mil. He even said it on a track. And, you know, over the course of that deal, it was going fine at first. He was putting out a lot of music all at once. Not all at once, but over the course of a short amount of time, he was putting his fastest output of music over this contract than previous albums of his career. He was really pushing out a lot of projects. So it seemed like he was trying to get through this contract so he can re-up again. And now that he's towards the end, the beef with Kendrick Lamar definitely put a stain on it, and then with Drake suing you, that was going to determine a lot, because had it gone his way, then I'm sure he would have settled for some money. He would have gotten some money out of it. Either way that it would have gone, the relationship would have been damaged. So it was really like throwing up a Hail Mary with 2 seconds left on the clock. And at 38, Drake is past his peak. He's past his peak. It's obvious. There's no debating it. There's not going to be a better Drake album. There's not going to be an album that it tops Views. Views is the best project, by the way. I will fight any of you on this. And he really has to look at, if I'm going to do my last 5-6 years in the game, am I going to stick with the same label? Am I going to leave, or am I going to do it by myself? And going right into it, first of all, I want to look at the cons if Drake goes back to UMG. The pros we're going to get into in just a couple minutes, so stick around because there's a lot to that too. So with the cons, obviously the relationship is damaged. This court case, or this lawsuit that was thrown out, obviously was really not making UMG happy. Employees at Sony and employees at Republic were very relieved that the lawsuit was over. It was affecting a lot more people than just Drake and UMG's relationship with Drake. It was affecting other artists, recent features with Kendrick, as y'all saw with the Clips album and the Kendrick feature. So it caused a lot of uproar in the industry. So with that, damaging that relationship is a really bad look for Drake. So if he re-signs, there's a chance, and I really think this could happen, UMG determines a lot of the game. They have ownership in Spotify. They do licensing through Spotify and use that to leverage with Spotify a lot. They work with Live Nation to get tours put together, promotion, obviously, radio. And honestly, I could see UMG making an example out of Drake, not in the sense of shelving him, but more in the sense of his next project just not pushing it as much, not getting that radio single, sort of letting it run its course by himself and just letting him see, like, okay, sort of like what they did with like the 100 gigs when he put out that 3-pack. They didn't promote that at all. And he had some hits on there. What was it? The song that got taken down, Red, Blue, Green? Bro, that shit was a hit. Like, that shit should have been a Billboard #1, but they got no push. It got taken down for a sample, I think. But No Face is good too. No Face is still in my rotation. That's a great song. That should have been a lot more out there than what it was. So UMG really couldn't suppress Drake in his numbers if they really want to. They have the ability to suppress a lot of artists' numbers, which, whether you think that is through bots or that's through promotion, which I'll leave that up to you, but I'm just saying they can turn down the numbers a lot if they really wanted to. So I think they could make an example out of Drake, at least for the first project, so they sort of put him back in place and be like, yeah, bro, stay in the studio. Don't get out of that fucking studio again. This will sort of trickle down to other artists as they're going to look at it and be like, these are the big dogs. We don't want to fuck with them. We want to maintain a good relationship, do our performances, do our shows, put out our albums, and yeah, stay in place for Daddy, because look at how they did Drizzy. And also another con is, I don't think he's 100% not getting his 400 mil this time around. There's no chance Drake is getting 400 mil for this next record deal. If at anything, his market value was definitely tarnished after that. He looks even lamer now. As somebody who's a big Drizzy fan, a big Drake fan, this was a really bad look, and he's been getting clowned on for the better part of 2 years now, honestly. But it's just amplified now with this getting thrown out, mainly in the hip hop space. I think that brings down his market value a lot, and that could lead UMG, you know, offering like, okay, you were worth 400 mil, but now we're gonna slide you 250, 200, just because you're 38, you're on the back end of your career, you're about to be 39. The music's just not hitting the same as it once was. With labels also taking a step back in how much they're investing into hip hop, and they've diversified into putting more assets into other genres or other artists, and even international artists. There's a lot of international artists that are getting a big push in America. I mean, look at Cordis. They're a young international group from Korea. I believe they're a K-pop group. They might be a Japanese group. My bad if I'm mistaken. But they're 17, 18 years old. Their project just debuted at 17 in America, and they just debuted, what, a year ago? There's a lot of big presence being developed in the States. You got a lot of Latin artists also. K-pop is just continuously going to grow. I can see labels putting a lot more assets into those genres as well. Country obviously has a lot bigger of a percentage of the market than it did 10, even 5 years ago. With that, we've also seen that a lot of hip-hop artists have received a lot less budget from their labels, have been getting a lot less money allocated towards them by labels. And we can tell just by looking at things like, go look at these music festival headliners 5 years ago, look at them today. A lot less hip-hop acts on there. There's a lot less we're seeing in the media from hip-hop artists, unless you're super tapped in and your algorithms just cater towards hip-hop content. For the average listener, and for like average, I guess normie, you can say would be the right word, they're not getting fed as much hip-hop content as they once were, and it's not really getting pushed as much as it once was. So I think with that just gives bigger reason for them not to give Drake as much money, because while he is a top dog, you have other artists in the game and other genres that are dominating right now. Shit, fucking Big Taylor, the biggest gangster in the game, just is about to sell, what, 3 mil first week? What are we talking about? I don't think that Drake is going to get his asking price. I think that his songs are going to get a little more suppressed. They're not going to get as much promotion. They might not get as much radio play because of that damaged relationship. And they're going to definitely try to really put him in place. Probably make him go on another tour, honestly. Dude was fucking all over Australia. He was in Japan. He was fucking putting on show night after night. That's got to be exhausting at his old age. I'm kidding. Drake is not old. Realistically, 38 is not crazy. But maybe that's just a 27-year-old in me speaking. But whatever. I don't know. I think if Drake does resign, there are a couple cons, because they are going to put that man to work. They're going to make sure that he knows that you are an artist first and you stay down there like the good lapdog you are. But on the other hand, going independent might not be the best route either. Going to another label might not be the best route either. And we're going to dive into the pros signing UMG. And after that, we're going to dive into what it might look like if he does sign with another label or if he does go independent. But as for the pros of re-signing with UMG, the biggest, obviously, is they have his back catalog. They have all his prior albums. They have all his music, so they can leverage that, because they're able to give him more money versus Sony or Republic, Atlantic, whatever. As them having his back catalog means that when he drops an album, when he drops Iceman, when he drops Some Sexy Songs for You, whatever, if he drops another project in the future, it's going to boost his back catalog, because people are going to be going to his other songs and be like, damn, this Drake is hitting. Let me go listen to some more Drake. They'll throw some more Drake on the playlist. They'll listen to an old album. They'll go replay it. So it's always, whenever an artist drops an album, their older projects get a little bit of a push too, because people are diving back into their music. And that's something that'll help UMG recoup a lot more versus Sony or an Atlantic, Republic, whatever, because UMG is going to be making money off every project, not just whatever Drake's next project after Iceman would be. And that's just going to casually bring in a little bit of income to keep building up to recouping that asking price, let's say 400 mil to make it an easy number. Which also goes to my next point. They have a 15-year relationship. They know how to market Drake. They know how to cater to Drake's audience. They know how to get Drake's albums, Drake's songs, where content around Drake being headlined around everywhere as much as possible. While it's Drake, it's not going to be hard for like Sony to promote Drake. Going independent route might be a little harder, because Drake doesn't have like huge team. He doesn't have like big corporation behind him. If he were a solo act, he has more resources than the average artist, don't get me wrong, but it's not like he has, is its own Atlantic or anything. It's not really comparable, and they're not going to have the resources that a UMG has. So having that 15-year relationship and having all those connections within the label of employees that work within the label to help push you as much as possible is definitely a lot more beneficial, because obviously, as y'all know, Drake is scared of not being the top guy. Drake has a fear of falling off. And we know this because Drake has always kept up with the newer scene, what's coming up, the younger artists. He's always been promoting, collabing, really staying up to date. And a lot of people might just look at that as like he's tapped in, he's a student of the game, whatever. But also a lot of people might look at that as he's just not wanting to fall off. So he's got to stay tapped in. He's got to stay in front of everybody's eyes. And he's got the best way to do that is market towards what's new, market towards the younger audience, the kids that are coming up and just getting phones, getting Spotify, getting Apple Music, whatever. That'll help you out a lot because the kids really determine what's hot. The youngest generation is always going to determine what's hot, what's not. Drake has to appeal to that. He's super scared of not being the top guy, so going independent wouldn't work. And going to another label, they might not be able to promote him as much as, or as well and as efficiently as a UMG. So having that continuous push by the biggest conglomerate in music is definitely a big help. That's a couple pros if you were to go back to UMG. But for a moment, let's put on our imagination caps. Let's say that Drake says, you know what, screw UMG. I'm tired of them. They screwed me over. They damaged my reputation. They damaged my legacy. If he's really in his bag of fuck UMG, I'm not for them, and he goes to a Sony, let's see what that'll look like. So one, Drake goes to Sony. In negotiations, it's not going to be the asking price that he wants. While UMG isn't going to give him the asking price that he wants, Sony is definitely not giving him the asking price he wants. Another label, the only reason I can see them giving him the money that he wants is just so that they can say they have Drake. And really, in 2026, is that going to have the power of saying that you have Drake that it would have in 2018, 2019, 2020? I don't think that weight holds up the same. I think that having the name Drake attached to your label is not as beneficial as it would have been 5-10 years ago. So there's no real incentive for like Sony or just another huge label to overpay for a Drake because they're only going to get what he's feeding them in those however many albums he signs for. Let's say he signs a 5-album deal. They're only going to eat off those 5 albums. And UMG is going to continue to eat off of Thank Me Later, off of Views, off of if you're seeing this, It's Too Late. Those albums are going to get a slight boost whenever Drake drops. And they're just going to see, sure, Sony will get like more bigger bag up front. Let's say first week sales, first month of the album being out, because the main priority of everybody streaming is the new release. But over time, the residual income, the long-term income is going to come from that full back catalog and having more of that back catalog. So it's more beneficial for a UMG to continue and retain Drake than it is for a Sony to sign Drake and only have him for those 5 albums that he'll put out. And realistically, from Drake's going to be 39, it's not too far away. Whenever Drake's 39 to 45, is he really going to be dropping that great music? Shit, Taylor Swift's 35, and you see how they're dogging her for the life of a showgirl. I don't continue seeing Drake being the top guy over the next few years. I would hope he knows this. He might not. He might still be like in that I'm the biggest bag, I'm never going to fall off bag, but I don't know. I don't see his output from 39 to 44, 45 being the same as his output from 25 to 35. You know what I mean? There's no way he's going to make any better music. And maybe this is going to age terribly. Maybe Drake's going to go on and have not a resurgence, but have an even bigger top level. Shit, maybe he might be tapping into some Spanish and eat that international market. Which another thing is, why haven't we gotten a Drake collab, another Drake Bad Bunny collab, another Drake Latin music collab, Drake K-pop collab even? Those would go crazy, and those would bring a huge international fan base that don't care about Drake's beef and Drake's drama, or continue to push that international fan base. And the K-pop representation in America in terms of collabing with American artists isn't really there. The biggest track I feel like we have recently is 3D with Jungkook and Jack Harlow. I'm not huge into K-pop. I've just recently gotten into it a couple months ago, so I don't know. I'm not super knowledgeable on it, but to my knowledge, that's the last biggest hit. So I feel like both genres can benefit a lot from that crossover happening. So that's something for Drake. If I know you're watching this, bro, tap in with like a Stray Kids or a P1 Harmony. I think it'll be good for you. And also, if you were to go to Sony, they're probably going to be a little hesitant to sign him because they're going to see this lawsuit. They're going to be like, You got mad at your label and you sued them. I don't know if we want to be associated with that. I don't know if that's somebody we necessarily want on our label, especially when all the other major labels are already stacked. And it's more beneficial for these labels to continue putting money into new artists and continuing to grow the successors of this generation, because all the artists from this generation are not really being topped by the next generation. There's not really those huge stars that are 18 to 22, like Tate McRae's 21, Olivia Rodrigo's 21. Those are the pop girls. In hip hop, there's not really those huge stars. Two Hollis just pulled an insane crowd recently, but I don't think Two Hollis is ever going to be like a huge mainstream artist. I think the next wave of hip hop is really going to be more beneficial to being an underground artist, and it's already happening. It's more beneficial to be an underground artist than it is to be a commercial artist nowadays, and we're going to see that being the meta for the next couple years, I feel like. So I don't know, maybe we'll see a flip of underground artists being more, I guess at that point they wouldn't be underground, but like underground sound getting a lot more commercially popular than it is right now. I just think other labels will be a little hesitant to sign a Drake. I think they're gonna see how this went down and take that as, let's take a little step back, or if we do look into signing this guy, we gotta be sure to really be careful and really protect ourselves in this contract. But that's going to lead to some tough negotiations, because I know Drake's lawyers are going to be looking at that label, at that contract. We want this. So with that, I think if Drake were to not come back to UMG, independence might be the best route, honestly. Because you look at independence, Drake's going to have control to drop what he wants, when he wants. He's going to get the full cut of it. So the back catalog at that point is irrelevant, because he's still going to get tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of streams on his music over the next 5 years, and collect all of that revenue, rather than having to collect like 20% after recouping or getting a big back up front and not getting any money from there forth. But you're not going to see 400 or 500 mil over the course of a couple years. I just don't see that happening, unless you get into some publishing and other things like that. There are ways to really leverage a catalog, especially if he goes independent and starts owning his catalog of the newer stuff put out. But I just don't see him reaching that number that he would want over the course of that time. But he would own whatever music he puts out for the rest of his life. So that would be a positive. You could always pass that down. Adonis could inherit an album. That's kind of tough, inheriting a Drake album. That's pretty tough. But on top of also getting all the revenue itself, you have a more focused fan base that's just more direct to your fans, because obviously you're not getting the label push. You're not going to be as out there as you were. You're not going to be the top guy in the industry anymore, which is why I don't see Drake taking this independent route. But if you were, it would be a lot more concentrated Drake stands versus just a general broad audience. And I think that'll be more beneficial for the fans than it would for Drake, because it just means they get to connect with their favorite artist a little bit more. But overall, I think the best situation for Drake is going to be re-signed to UMG. There's really not the cons of, or the pros of signing to like a Sony or like a Warner or going independent just don't outweigh the pros of going back to UMG. Has the keys to continue to keep Drake at the top of the game for the next couple years. And after that, I think Drake is good to do whatever. Shit, go scam if you want to. I don't really give a fuck. Because Drake, at this point, he's willing to do anything to continue growing his bag. Shit, we might see Drake in politics in a couple years, but you didn't hear that from me. Obviously, this lawsuit was a bad look. I didn't make a video talking about the lawsuit getting dismissed, because I figured everybody was making a video talking about the lawsuit. Blackie Speaks made a really good video talking about the lawsuit getting dismissed. Same thing with Hello You Seen. So definitely make sure to check out their videos if you want to hear more about the actual lawsuit itself getting dropped. But as far as him resigning, I think it just puts him into some, not messy waters, but it's just definitely, his market value is definitely a lot lower, and Drake's got to be fuming right now. He's got to be super frustrated. So I can imagine that re-signing to UMG is not at the top of his mind. Right now, he's probably focused on trying to appeal this, which I don't think he should appeal it, because that's going to be a sucker move. Honestly, people are going to be like, dog, let this shit go. Any moves he continues to make on this is just going to continue to damage his public perception, and people are going to continue to bash on him. So I think at this point, it's just good for him to let it go and just do his thing, continue dropping music, and like I said, be the good lapdog you are. But yeah, that's all I got. What do you guys think? Do you guys see Drake not re-signing to UMG? Do you see him going the independent route, going to another label? What do you think will play out after Iceman drops, or the drop of Iceman? Do you think it's coming soon? Because we've honestly, the rollout's been a little hectic. We haven't got another live stream. The schedule has been kind of random. It feels like this rollout's felt dragged on. It's probably going to drag on a little longer now that the lawsuit thing is settled and everything, or has been thrown out and everything. But I'm excited for the next Drake project. I'm excited to see where this goes. If we do see Drake resign, that'll be crazy. If we see him go independent, that'll be insane. But you know what you guys think? Definitely like the video and subscribe if you did make it all the way through. I appreciate you guys so much. Definitely continue to sub up. It helps me out a ton. We're trying to hit that 10,000 subscriber mark by the end of the year, which I think we really could. I'm about to make a big push on pushing out a lot of videos. So you're going to see a lot of content. I'm going to be on my Hello Yassine shit soon. Bro, that man is uploading like at 6 in the morning. Shit, I'll wake up at 2 in the morning sometimes, go get a drink of water. I'll open YouTube just to play something in the background while I fall back asleep. And it'll say, Hello Yassine uploaded it 2 minutes ago. I'm like, God damn, does this dude ever sleep? But I'm just gonna get off a tangent there while I can. I'm gonna put out a lot more videos here coming in the near future. I'm working on a lot of videos right now, actually. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'll see you guys in the next one, hopefully tomorrow. Peace.